All right, you guys, it is a big year. We've been talking about this since the beginning of January, Lauren. 1996 was the year that Kiss 95.1 WNKS FM was born here in Charlotte. And we are celebrating our Dirty 30. To be exact, May 31st, 1996 was when Kiss 95.1 was launched. The very first song played on Kiss 95.1 in 1996, I Go Blind by Hootie and the Blowfish, according to our research. And here to help us celebrate is someone who knows Kiss 95.1, the frequency of 95.1 better than anybody I know, our good friend and coworker now, Yankee Pete.
Hi.
Hey, Pete.
I can't. You're making me feel old.
It's like what our callers do to us now. They're like, we've been listening to you since we were in middle school, and now we're in the workforce, and we're like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no gray here. There's no gray hair. No, it's all gray.
1996. Kiss 95.1 was on the air. You came with the Ace and TJ show.
I did.
Such a huge part of the history of Kiss 95.1. In what year?
We began April 6th, 1998. So before Kiss turned 2, the Ace and TJ show was the morning show on Kiss. Now, it started with Luke and Terry. And Luke ended up with a job back in, I want to say, Arkansas. He had gone back. He had the opportunity to go back toward family. That's my understanding. I had never met him. He was going back to Arkansas. Terry was still around. And Terry was the fourth member of our show. So it was Ace and TJ with Terry and Yankee Pete.
Okay.
Starting in 98.
So you had one of the originals. Yeah.
We did.
I didn't even know that. Look at that. I'm already learning something on this awesome podcast, A Trip Down Memory Lane, and we're not even 2 minutes in yet. So you came from Illinois.
Yeah, my path was weird. So I was born and raised in Illinois. I started in radio the week after my junior year in high school. It's all I ever wanted to do. And the first song I played on the radio more than 30 years ago, in 1989, was Dolly Parton, Why'd You Come In Here Looking Like That, on a little 45 record. And if you're listening to this and don't know what it is, ask your parents or grandparents. They'll tell you what a 45 is. So from there, in 90, I worked at a couple of stations in Illinois. Now it's 1994, and I wanted to move away from my hometown. Well, my dad's side of the family was from Louisiana, so that gave me a little bit of a safety net. So I applied in central Louisiana. But if I fail, if I fall flat on my face, if I'm going to end up digging ditches for a living and not being on the radio, because physical labor, I love to see it being done, and I love paying someone to do it.
Yeah.
It's a skill that I do not have. But if I have to, I will. But I could live with my grandparents. I had family there. And I got the call, and I got hired to do afternoons on a top 40 station in Alexandria, Louisiana. And the morning show had just begun less than a year before because the station went bankrupt. So they took the night guy and the overnight guy and paired them together for mornings. And their names were Ace and TJ.
Wow.
That was in 93. I joined in 94. I started to help them for free in the morning while I was doing afternoons, booked a couple of interviews. Did the stunts on the street, and that's.
And then you got the call to come to Kiss.
And I went back to Illinois, managed some stations there. They went from Alexandria, Louisiana to Baton Rouge to Huntsville, Alabama, and we kind of always said then in the mid '90s, if we ever get the budget for a producer, we're calling you. We want to get the band back together. And in '97, they did in Alabama. But we had to wait to go on the air because there's this non-compete thing.
Yes.
So the station across town said, hey, we'll pay you more, but you have to wait a year before you can go on the air. But we'll pay you in the meantime.
Oh, wow.
And we'll pay a producer. So I moved from, at the time, San Angelo, Texas, over to Huntsville, Alabama, and joined them to wait to go on the air in Alabama.
So are you producing things at that point still? Are you cutting breaks behind the scenes and like banking best ofs? Like, what do you do for a year?
We had a lot of coffee at Huddle House and Waffle House. And there was an old abandoned radio station building that the company that we were working for owned. And there were these copy paper boxes, that has like the 10 reams of paper in it, full of cassette tapes.
Wow.
From Ace and TJ over the years. There's no labels, there's no rhyme or reason, but we're trying to put together some pieces and some best of stuff just for something to do.
Yeah.
And my OCD brain is like, you guys, wait, what day is this from? Where's the first tape of the day? Where's the second one? And they both looked at me and said, listen, if we were organized, you wouldn't be here. Welcome to your job.
That's fair.
Very, very true. We each had a skill set. So one afternoon, we were at Ace's apartment, and the phone rings, the old landline phone. Didn't have cell phones back then. The phone rings, and this lady says, hey, you don't know me? My name is Marcy. Brian, the program director at KISS 95.1 in Charlotte, said he would give me $50 if I could track you down and get you to call him.
Wow.
Okay. So she found somehow Ace's home number, called. Then they called Brian Bridgman, who was the program director, I think, who launched KISS.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And he said, hey, we have a need for a morning show. Do you guys want to come check it out? And we heard you're good. Can you send us anything?
So had you guys ever even made it on air down there?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
Never.
Wow.
Never went back on the air in Huntsville or Birmingham, which was the plan. We went to a conference in February in Dallas, and we were scared to death. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can't speak for their mindset. I was scared to death. Like, okay, Birmingham is going to be home. This is where we're going to live. How can we go to this huge city? I still had this small town mindset, and Birmingham was going to be huge, which it was.
Charlotte's going to be bigger.
Still is a great town. But John Boy and Billy were here. Bob and
Yeah.
Sherry were here. This is, and for those who grew up listening to KISS, and if you're listening to this, please know, and this isn't bragging, but as far as the country goes, outside of New York and L.A., at the time, Charlotte was a legendary radio town. You had John Boy and Billy. You had Bob and Sherry. This is where the big shows were. So we're at this convention, and Scott Shannon from New York, legendary, possibly the biggest radio personality ever.
Like the pop of the Z Morning Zoo. He was the inventor of the morning shows.
He was, and he was the inventor of the Weekend Blastoff, which lived on for a couple of decades on KISS.
We
Friday
still do
mornings.
the Friday free for all.
Yeah,
make no mistake.
It's just not the Blastoff.
No,
we stole it word for word from Scott. So Scott was there. He was a guest speaker, and he comes over and goes, "Hey, I heard you got a van." Yeah, he goes, "I need to go to the mall." Okay. This is, before Uber. This is before the internet.
Oh, my God, this is hilarious.
And he didn't want to get a taxi. Like, oh, my God, I have to drive a van that we rented because we didn't have the money to fly into Dallas. So we just rented this van. I have Scott Shannon in the back, and Jeff from Jeff and Jer in San Diego wanted to go along.
Huge morning show.
We go to Grapevine Mills over by the airport, and because they needed to pick up something.
Drugs, probably. Joking, LauRen. It's a 90s joke.
We walked into the mall and walk up to this perfume counter, and Scott Shannon, and everybody has long hair except Scott. And Scott asked the lady at the perfume counter, "Hey, you know who that is? That's the band Styx." So it just flat out lie. But this girl at the counter didn't know. So they're taking pictures and we're signing autographs. Whatever. We do a little photo booth in the mall. And then Scott said, "My favorite restaurant is Outback. Let's go to Outback." And he talks about radio success and making millions of dollars. And he and Jeff both being millionaires. And when the bill came, he goes, "Well, that's yours. You can pay it." We're broke. We're broke as possible. But in that conversation, and Scott is so fantastic for this. It was a lesson in a million different ways. We didn't ask about Charlotte. We just asked about opportunities and moving up. And Scott knew everything about the industry. And there at dinner, he goes, "Well, I don't, if I were you, I would sure move to Charlotte. Charlotte's where you need to be." And we looked at each other like, we didn't talk about this offer or this deal.
How does he know?
How does he know? But that was a little confidence boost, or it was for me, of, you know what? You can be a big fish in a smaller pond, or you can go to the ocean and see if you can compete, or if you're going to be eaten alive by the sharks. And we did it. And we came up, accepted the job offer at a little crappy gray building at the corner of 3rd and South Kings, which is now an apartment complex. But the tower is still there. I think in the courtyard, like by the pool of that apartment complex, is the little tower. That's where the station was.
Where did you live when you moved here? Do you
University
remember?
area.
Okay.
Yep.
And Ace and TJ, you all lived in that area?
We all moved to the same apartment complex. We were all
Gosh, no separation of church and state.
No, that happens when you move, though. You're all trying to figure it out.
All of our stuff was in the same giant U-Haul moving van coming from Birmingham, too. We were up here, and I think it was TJ's wife who actually packed up my apartment. I mean, not that there was a whole lot. I was a 24-year-old kid who had moved 6 times that year already.
Wow. Do you have
a whole lot of stuff?
Any recollection of your first day on Kiss 95.1 in any way? Was it a train wreck? Was it better than you thought? Because I know people who have been on the morning show in the city they wanted to, and they hung up their headphones after the first show and cried, and they're like, I made the wrong decision.
It was not that dramatic. I remember it was fun. It was good. We were prepped for we were prepped to get the comments of, you're a wannabe John Boy and Billy, because you're bringing 2 guys in with Southern accents, and in the previous markets, the Ace and TJ show did a lot of parody songs and character voices and things like that were similar to John Boy and Billy. So we had to figure out our own path, and it became more.
But you played different music.
Yes.
We were a pop station.
We did, but like, you guys just want to be John Boy and Billy.
Yeah,
You're
right.
not.
Right.
Like, you're going to get some of that. Like I said, this was before the internet. So it was only people calling saying you suck.
Yeah.
And faxing, because there was a fax machine right there. As far as LauRen is sitting from me right now is where the fax machine was, with the curly paper, not even real paper. And people could write stuff on there. It was fun. It was a big launch, because Jay Thomas, famous actor who has since passed away. Yep. He was Carla's boyfriend, hockey playing boyfriend on Cheers.
In Cheers, yep. He was on Howard 101 on Sirius XM, part of the Howard Stern family. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, Jay Thomas started his radio career in Charlotte. And, I mean, he and Larry Sprinkle had worked together, and he was legendary here. He was beloved in the 70s. Well, they announced when Luke left that your new morning show is Jay Thomas.
Oh.
And Jay Thomas came back on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and did the morning show in the KISS studio. Hey, Charlotte, I'm back. This town has turned into such a crap hole. I would never go to Gastonia. What is the problem? He pissed off and offended the whole town.
Wow.
Like, it was this welcome back. Oh, we've got Jay Thomas back. And on Friday, April 3rd, he said, okay, I still love this town. This has been fun. This has been a 3-day April Fool's joke. And I'd like to introduce you to your new morning show.
How cool.
I love these guys.
How cool.
Here's Ace and TJ. Please do me a favor and check them out on Monday morning.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
That was the launch. That was the introduction.
Wow.
So it was a lot of hype. It was a lot of TV coverage, because, they had cameras in the studio. Jay Thomas is back. Nobody realized he went on the air on April 1st.
Right.
Nobody went, I'll take a John Boy and Billy reference. Nobody went, duh. and no, this isn't real.
Right.
But he played it up. We could not have asked for a better kickoff.
And it was you, Yankee. It was Yankee Pete, Ace, TJ, and Lex still?
Terry.
Terry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Terry Blake. And, she was around for almost 2 years, I think.
With you guys.
With us.
Right.
And then she transitioned out, and that's when Angie joined the show.
Okay. And before, so after you guys got on in 1998, when did the success come? Because Ace and TJ were so immensely successful at this station at that time. Did it come quicker than you?
Immediate or?
No. I think it was 16, 18 months before we got our first information back that indicated ratings that we were number one, 1834.
That's amazing.
Adults, when you look at that demographic, which is kind of what at the time a top 40 station was targeting. And when we started, it was a 13th place radio station, and it was first within a year and a half.
That's pretty good.
And we were on a radio listener cruise when that information came in, and we celebrated there. And it was really kind of defining the characters of who we were, overcoming that. We understand we're not Luke and Terry. Just join us, give us a shot here. We're not trying to be John Boy and Billy, showing respect for them on the air. And then we pulled back on the parody songs and some of the character stuff. But it was different music. It was a different show, and it became a family. And we always said the radio family.
Yep.
And said we had 3 listeners, and then it jumped to only 11.
Do you remember?
Listeners.
Do you remember your listeners? Do you remember any names that would call?
Never name. Oh, the people who would call?
Yeah. I know we're going back 30 years. But like when I started radio, I started in Little Rock in 98 while they were here creating their own dynasty. You know, I was working hard in Little Rock, and I remember some of the callers. We gave them nicknames, you know, but you weren't talking
There was a lady. I can't remember her name, and she was
good,
wild, and she was from Lawndale. And I am too old now to remember her name.
But she was good, a good person to lean on. When she called in, you were getting something out of her.
We were, because I think maybe she had been up for 5-6 days.
Yeah.
And always had a story. I know there was.
But Ballantyne was tiny. Blakeney probably wasn't even around at the time. Huntersville, the lake probably had half the houses it had on it, you know, on up on Lake Norman. I mean, you know, you're talking.
You go back and look at the population. Charlotte at the time, I think, was between 300 and 400,000 people as far as Charlotte city population. And I looked at it the other day, and it's in the 980s. I mean, it's almost a million. When you look at the whole metro area where the station reached, it was 1.5 to 2 million, and now it's almost 4. I mean, this is one of the fastest growing places.
Yep.
And I'll go back to this.
You had the Panthers, though.
We did.
Panthers were here.
And that was huge.
That was probably exciting.
I remember driving into town. I'm not a sports fan at all, but you know, I know teams.
Sure.
But I remember both Ace and TJ, because we all drove up in Ace's little car from Alabama and cleared the skyline. Like, oh man, there's Erickson Stadium.
Yeah, Erickson Stadium.
And it wasn't far. It wasn't far from there to 3rd and Kings. Like, this is. But I remember, you know, small town kid. I wrote letters to my parents, and they're both gone now. But I'm still going through some of their stuff, and I ran across a letter that I wrote about going into the radio station on the weekend just to catch up on some work and be ready for Monday, and looking at the skyline and watching planes, at the time U.S. Air, take off behind the skyline, and knowing, I'm a bit of an aviation nerd, but knowing that
You're in good company, so is Maney.
To 50, 60, 100 different destinations. And I was just in awe that I am in a city and a town, and I'm a kid who went to kindergarten through high school in the same building, like Little House on the Prairie, graduated with 32 people, one stoplight in the whole county.
Yeah.
And I was, and I will say still am after 28 years here, wowed by the opportunity. And there is no way that any of it would have happened if those 11 listeners, 3 radio family members back in 98, 99, 2000, didn't give us their stamp of approval and go, all right, you guys are all right. We were all under 30 at the time. Like, I was 25, TJ was 27, and Ace may have been 28, because we were all within 3 years of each other when we moved to town, right in that age range.
And only TJ was married?
They were both married at the time. I think they had been married in 94. 94 and 95
Okay.
or 6.
Okay.
No kids yet.
Right. We're gonna do a 2-part
Okay.
podcast, and I want to get into in our next podcast the next phase of Kiss 95.1 and how you guys continue to grow. But before we wrap up this podcast here, part 1, do you remember your first guest you had in the studio at Kiss 95.1 in 1998? That wasn't a.
Well,
that wasn't somebody from Lawndale.
I was gonna say the first guest, like additional person in the room, was probably from down the hall.
Right.
Somebody that we were going to quiz.
A celebrity.
Yes, I remember the first artist who came in and played and interviewed. And while I can't sing along, I would encourage you to pull up the song and listen to it from 28 years ago. I believe her name was Jennifer Page. Possibly one-hit wonder. It's just a little crush.
Something coffee. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know the rest of it, but I remember whoa, she's actually coming in. She's going to sit here. It's not just, on the phone. She's in town.
Yeah.
You guys get to interview her. And Ace and TJ were used to that. And I want to be clear. I was, as a smaller town kid, they had more larger market experience than I did. So they probably weren't as wowed. It was
right.
They had bigger vision, more experience, and I was along for the ride as the helper, and it was fantastic.
And you were in awe by it. I love it. Got your picture somewhere.
Yeah.
On it's an actual photo sitting somewhere in a shoebox, but
yeah, the photos exist. I mean, I was a lot skinnier then. A lot skinnier. And we'd have some NASCAR drivers in. Dale Jarrett was a great friend of the show. Harry Connick came in. Harry Connick Jr. came in. Supposed to be 15 minutes, and he did 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Now, this is a little inside business, and I know we're going to go to part 2 here in a second. We were afraid to take a commercial break because afraid his rep was going to say, okay, let's go.
Yes.
We went almost 2 hours
No,
without playing
you
a single
didn't.
commercial. And we played his song, Come By Me, which was hitting top 40 maybe 6 times during that segment. But everybody's laughing, having such a good time. We didn't want to give anyone a reason to go, okay, let's get out.
Right.
Over 2 hours.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Holy
They're
cow.
freaking out. We didn't play any commercials. We're losing money.
Yeah, right.
You know what? It was fun radio.
Kiss 95.1 was in full swing when Ace and TJ and Yankee Pete hit their groove there. So we'll wrap up part 1 here. We'll come back with part 2, talk about the continued growth of Kiss 95.1 and the ultimate changing of Ace and TJ and the Maney and LauRen Morning Show eventually coming into phase as well. So as we celebrate 30 years of Kiss 95.1, we thank Pete for being here. And make sure you guys tune in to part 2 and watch part 2 as well, as you're doing both on this podcast.
Hey, it's LauRen from the